Get Gutsy episode number 169 with Shih. Do the thing that excites you the most. Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting-edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now. Hey there, Jenny here. Welcome to Get Gutsy. Listen, it's been a while since we've had a guest that I'm talking to. I've been giving you a lot of solos that are part of my Jam with Jenny. And today we've got a guest. Hooray! I've got a lot of guests for you this month especially, and this week in particular. We are now in the final month of 2017, and this kicks off Gutsy Coach Week. We're going to give you a number of episodes this week because it's Gutsy Coach Week. It is Gutsy Coach Week. Hooray. Why is it Gutsy Coach Week? Well, why not? Right? During Gutsy Coach Week, we are featuring several awesome and inspiring coaches here on the show. My intention is that you get inspired by what's possible when you say yes to this glorious and abundant path of coaching. You may or may not know that I have my own coaching school. It's called Get Gutsy Coach Training School. We've been around now for about 2.5 years, and we have graduated close to 100 students, and we are enrolling for our next class. Our next class begins in January 2018, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited because the most amazing women always step forward. We already have such a great group who have said yes, and now we're in this time where we're spreading the message that we're ready to take in and receive and welcome those other courageous women who are ready to really rise up as leaders and as coaches. So my job is to simply shine a light here to celebrate this path of coaching, and that's why we created Gutsy Coach Week. It's such a fun experience to talk about coaching because sometimes you might hear like the word coach or coaching, and if you're not yet a coach or you're like a new coach, you might not really understand exactly what that means or what that entails. And so this week you're going to hear from lots of coaches, and they'll tell you more about their story of how they found their way into coaching and why they do what they do, how they do, what they've learned along the way. And you'll hear the way that I'm really, talking to my guests now and, talking about more of their backstory, which I am fascinated by. I like to know what happened in your childhood and, how that has informed what you do for a living and what your sacred work is. So, super pumped to share these episodes with you today. Go check out Get Gutsy Coach Training School before we close our doors for our January 2018 class. You can go to coachtrainingschool.com. Everything you need to know is there. And if you have a question that's not covered over at coachtrainingschool.com, reach out to the team. You can reach us at vip@jennyfenig.com. That's vip@jennyfenig.com. So listen, I have not one but two Jennys for you today. I'm your first Jenny, right? And I've got a second Jenny for you. And I have to tell you, anytime more than one Jenny gets together, like in a conversation or in a room, things get cool. Because as you're going to hear Jenny Shih and I talk about today, to decide you're a Jenny, typically when you're given the name Jennifer, that just means that you have this like certain energy to you. I'm telling you, I have discovered this time and time and again when I meet fellow Jennies because there's actually not a lot of us. There's a lot of Jennifers who then decide you're either Jennifer, Jenny, or Jen, and then you have to really choose like, oh, I'm going to be Jenny. And so that's what Jenny, Shih, and I have done. Wow, you're in for a treat. So let me tell you a little bit more about what you're going to get from this episode. From engineer to manager, from virtual assistant to coach, Jenny Shih shares a fascinating look at her zig-zaggy journey to becoming a stellar coach. Jenny also reveals how mean girls and depression when she was younger led to perfectionism and burnout. Eventually, Jenny prioritized what she really wanted. She learned how to set boundaries and how to say that magical two-letter word that I know many of my Get Gutsy listeners struggle with, and that word is no. 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 Practice saying it with me now. No. Yes. Jenny is a breath of fresh air. She's super smart. I'm so glad to have her on this show, and I'm so pumped to have her kicking off Gutsy Coach Week. So, without further ado, enjoy this episode with a Jenny, Shih, and me on Do the Thing That Excites You the Most.
Jenny, welcome to Get Gutsy.
Hi, thanks, Jenny.
I love it. Two Jennys in a room together, a virtual room. Doesn't matter what room. You got two Jennys, more than one Jenny, even just one Jenny. There's going to be some good things going on.
Good times.
Let's just dive into the Jenny thing first before we go any further, because as we did a little pre-show banter, I was like, Jenny, because I've known about you for a long time. You know, this funny thing about this whole internet world is like, you'll know about somebody, you'll kind of just see them. They're orbiting over here, you're orbiting over there. And then there's a time where eventually your paths cross. Mm-hmm. So this is our time. And I get such a kick out of connecting with Jenny's because we, you know, have a shared experience of, I'm guessing you were named Jennifer.
Yes.
Jennifer. And were you in a classroom with like 5 other Jennifers growing up at one point?
My graduating class of high school was 201 people, and we had 7 Jennifers. But okay. I was the only Jenny. And there was a period in there in 8th grade where somebody told me Jenny was a little kid's name and I should try on Jen. And my family still calls me Jen. But not the rest of the world, I am Jenny. I don't like Jen. Please don't call me Jen. I am Jenny.
I'm so glad. See, that happened to you too. That happened in 8th grade?
Yeah.
You were told, okay, let me tell you when that happened for me. That happened for me because it's like, I think every Jenny has gone through that. And we had to really remain strong. We're like, okay. Because like, I was like you, I kind of believed this guy was my boyfriend at the time. And I was in my 20s. I was living in New York City. My first career, public relations agency, you know, working on these major accounts. And he worked in finance. And he told me that I would not be taken seriously as Jenny. And I didn't need to be a Jen. I needed to be Jennifer. And I freaking believed him. I'm like, well, he's 2 years older than me. And, you know, he's further along in his career than me. He probably knows what he's talking about. So I went to work and I was like, okay, everybody, you now need to call me Jennifer. I had new business cards printed. I had like a new email address because it was like first name dot last name or something. And then about a month into that, I'm like, oh no. This ain't me. I am Jenny through and through.
I'm so Jenny that when I got married and changed my married name to my husband's last name, I almost changed my first name to be Jenny because I'm like, this whole Jennifer thing. I mean, like the only people call me Jennifer are like doctors, you know?
I'm so with you. I'd see my name printed sometimes. And it's usually when I'm calling doctor's offices or like insurance or like, who am I speaking to? I'm like, Jennifer Fenig, because I know right. And it just gets technical sometimes. Oh my gosh, I love it. So for any of y'all who are listening in, you know, it's funny, Jenny, because when I have 3 kids and I was so impacted by being, you know, the Jennifer and having to choose Jennifer, Jenny, Jen. And there's a lot of choices. You're young. You're like, I'm feeling Jenny. With my kids, I gave them names that I feel are unnicknameable.
Yes.
They're Sean, Luke, and Kate.
Yes, exactly. I love that. I don't have kids, but that would be my protocol too, because it even confuses my husband. His name is Paul. He's like, wait, this is an airline ticket. Do I put Jenny or Jennifer? I'm like, yeah, anything official, it's always Jennifer. I mean, after 17 years, caught on, but it took him a while. He didn't get the whole nickname thing.
Totally. But it taught me a lot about, you know, branding and really connecting to whatever words you're going to use, whatever name. I feel like that's one of my greatest gifts is branding and being able to feel into what is this thing. You're not Jennifer. Yes, that was your given name. I don't relate to that. It's like, no, I feel Jenny. And so, you know, everybody who's listening, make sure that your name, I've had several clients who are like, well, I really want to be called that. I'm like, well, why on social media are you using the other thing? Because that's what people are going to call you. So if you want to be called then change it. You need to change it.
Totally true. Totally true. You gotta change it and own it. Like, I am Jenny. This is it. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going for. And that is your clients. I think that's great advice to your clients.
All right. So let's go back. Tell me, okay. So obviously you had that, that incident in 8th grade where someone said,
right.
Jenny is too cutesy of a name. And so, okay, but let's dive a little bit deeper into, your childhood, and tell me about, what was the most amazing piece of your childhood? What is there, like, a specific memory? Is there a specific, like, oh, I just love where I live? Like, what about that time in your life just really stands out as being, oh, that was amazing?
All right. I'm gonna have to think about that one. The first thing that comes to mind, so I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to mind, because I don't really have a canned answer, but the thing that I remember most is, so my mom was a school teacher, and she had the summers off, and so summers were all about, like, all we did, this was before I was old enough to have a job, all my sister and I did all summer long was, like, live in the swimming pool. So we just were outside swimming all day long, like, our blonde hair turned green. I mean, we were just in there all the time. And just, like, that sense of, like, carefree and no obligations and not having to do anything. And we would go away to camp for, like, 2 weeks or something like that to give my mom a break from us during the summer. But really just, like, being outside and just playing and just having, like, loving what we were doing, riding bikes and swimming all the time. That was pretty much what we did.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Boston in a little small town.
Oh, well, I'm in Massachusetts.
Yes.
Okay, so you're just outside of Boston. And now you live on the West Coast?
Yeah, I moved to Oregon 17 and a half years ago.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we'll get there in a moment. All right, so that's what you love. So did you just, it was like the outside time? Was it the unstructured play? Was it just like being with your sister?
I think being outside, unstructured, like, just that sense of freedom, because generally I'm sort of like a structured, organized, methodical kind of person. I'm not like you. None of my friends would ever be like, Jenny's such a free spirit. Like, that would never cross their lips.
Got it.
But to think about, like, hey, maybe that was the time where, like, that inner spirit got to be free.
That's interesting. And it could be, connected to, well, we'll get into more of the work that you're doing now, but, when we set out, we discover entrepreneurship is for us. The thing that I love most about it is that I can design it, like I don't have to play against somebody else's rule book on, well, you need to be here at this time and you have your lunch break and blah, blah, blah. So that's why I started doing these conversations and really diving into some of that, because I'm fascinated by patterns and trends and, like, things that happened. I feel like so much roots back to when we were younger, and it kind of gets unpacked, in the work that I do with my clients. It's obviously not therapy, but I'm just fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by memories and experiences and stories. And so is there something that really stands out to you from, those younger years that was, really challenging to you, that perhaps helped shape you into who you are today and what you're doing, that you would classify as, like, that was really freaking hard?
Yeah, well, it depends on sort of, like, what stage. So when I was in 6th grade, I was bullied. We didn't call it that back then, but that's sort of what
we didn't call it that. What did we call it?
What did I call it? Like, I didn't even call it anything. Like, I just, I don't know.
Were that girls, like mean girls, just like really?
Yeah, super awful. And, the girl who'd been my best friend from kindergarten through 5th grade, all of a sudden saw these new kids in our school picking on me, and she didn't want to be my friend anymore and so, like, I no longer had this best friend who, like, we did everything together. And I was like, my hair was too blonde and my skin was too pale. And I was like, 6th grade kids just call.
6th grade is brutal.
Yeah. And so I just, like, it tore me down. It tore me down into a place that, like, my little 11-year-old self didn't even know existed. And it took me about, like, 9 years to crawl out of that and realize, like, oh, that was really hard, and I didn't have the skills, and my parents didn't have the skills to, or know what to do to sort of.
Even your mom is a teacher.
Yeah, no.
She couldn't see that. It's interesting. We can't get everything from our parents. That's why thank you for sharing that that piece, it's like sometimes, well, why wouldn't she be able to? She knows that she's the kid, but it's just not, we are dealt these experiences, they come into our life. And for you, 9 years to kind of be like, whoa, I'm coming out of that. And I do have value and I'm worth being friends with. But yeah, you know, I had my own experiences somewhat different, but some hard, like older girls who weren't always kind and weren't like a mentor, you know, and they see this little freshman coming in, like just being really mean and not supportive. And I've seen in my path how that's why I like creating these supportive communities for women, you know, it's just so much of what coaching allows us to do. And so you experience these mean girls, not helpful, didn't want to be your friend, didn't want you to sit with them, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so how much has that inspired what you create now in your body of work with, you know, with the clients that you're called here to serve?
Yeah, well, I think it's, I love how you're connecting those dots. And I think there's like a few more pieces that sort of fit it all together. So, you know, that whole thing started this downward spiral of like serious depression and suicidal tendencies and all that kind of stuff. Until I was sort of 19. But what I did was like, okay, well, these girls kept criticizing me for everything. I was
Same
like,
girls, those chicks were on you that whole time?
No, just that
like,
1 year. But
yeah,
that year tore me down for everything, from what I wore, from how I looked, from my hair color, from it didn't really matter, from the words I used. And so what I then spent all my years after doing that was trying to be perfect. Like that free spirit we talked about before, it disappeared. And it was like, what do I need to say? What do I need to do? Who do I need to be? And so I got jobs and I was always working and I was volunteering. And it was like, well, okay, if clearly I've sort of failed in this whole social way, then why don't I go be this good person in this other way? And so that really set me on this course of doing everything, doing all the right things, being a good person, having a million commitments. And when I got into college, that then, you know, I was at a prestigious engineering school, which is hard in of itself. And then I had to work and I had to do this volunteer for my scholarship and I was a vice president of sorority and I just kept piling on all this other stuff. And by the time I was 19, I was sort of like, I was burnt out. So most people burn out like 20s, 30s, 40s. I sort of hit that burnout when I was 19. And so coming out of that I had to start not displeasing people, like not going around being mean, but telling people no. Like I had to start setting boundaries. And that was really the start of then like, I'm going to say no to being in my sorority. And some of my friends were like, you did what? And they're like, they were all mad. I'm like, I have to, you know, it was saying no to staying out at the bars after 10. And it was getting up early to go to the gym. And it was like reprioritizing what really mattered to me as opposed to this whole external thing. And so I took that through college and into the corporate. And so now in this place, I see like incorporating that, like I really try to create these inclusive communities where everyone is welcome no matter who you are. And it's not a show. Like it's not a put on. I know what it feels like to be ostracized, to be set out. And so when I create these communities, it's of my clients just like you, how do we bring everyone together? How do you feel accepted no matter whoever you are, with whatever you bring to the table, you're sort of welcome here. And then pairing that also with like, dude, like put yourself first once in a while. Like this whole trying to serve the whole world and prioritize and do everything for everyone else, that's not serving you and it's not serving your people. So I think both of those stories kind of come into what I bring into my work now.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is freaking powerful. I'm just imagining that and being that, 19-year-old. Isn't that interesting how you kind of translated what happened to you with those mean girls? Like, I'm just gonna be perfect now because I'm gonna say the right thing. If I wear the right thing, if I have my hair correct to their liking, then I'll be liked, I'll be accepted. And you started losing yourself that way, because when we don't have that space to take care of ourselves, to say no, because that actually just doesn't work for us, then, it's so important that we do that. And that's, a lot of the work that I do in my work too, a lot, it's focused on the business pieces and, becoming a coach or moving your business to that next level. But if you miss that mark on saying no, so much of the work, it's the boundaries piece. It's realizing that you are enough, that you are allowed to disappoint people. I remember when I was training to become a coach in 2008, one of the books that we were required to read was Cheryl Richardson's what was it called? The Art of Extreme Self-Care. Did you ever read that one?
Yeah.
Okay. The chapter, Let Me Disappoint You.
Yes.
One of my all-time favorites. I was like, oh, oh my God, you're allowed to do that? Like, you need permission to disappoint somebody, to say no. And it's so important that we have these conversations, especially with women, because this is how we are trained. We are trained.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, it's funny because we think it's hard to say no, but when we start practicing it, it comes from such a genuine place. Byron Katie says, a no to you is a yes to me. And I just had to say this to a client yesterday, very lovingly. She says, Jenny, I want you to help me figure out and insert big gargantuan life problem. And I came back to her and I said, I totally understand you need help with that. And that is not what I help people with. I am not able to give you the kind of coaching you need to make that decision. I am really good at helping people, who have a plan, figure out how they're going to get there and coach themselves through the blocks to getting there. But when you're talking about a major life shift, that's not what I do. And she wrote back and she said, thank you so much for being so clear about what you're here to do. And that makes a whole lot of sense. And so that we want to please our clients. We want to make them happy, but we also have to be clear. Well, this isn't just with our clients. This is in life. Right. What we bring to the table and what we don't bring to the table. And I would have done her a disservice if I tried to coach her on this thing that's not my thing. Like, I'm not the best coach there. That's not what I do. And
that's
so
not your zone.
So often boundaries help us. I have a friend who's very generous with her time, and she's gotten so much better, but she used to oversay yes to people. And then she would, something would happen and, the stuff would hit the fan and she would be unable to follow through. And then she would have to be like, so sorry, I can't. And it actually feels worse. So it's like, no, just tell me no up front.
Right away.
You say no at the beginning because the something later is no fun. And so when we get comfortable saying no to people, like kindly and lovingly, this isn't like, this isn't
right.
mean. This is being kind and loving. We support them in getting what they need, which may not be through us. And we support ourselves as well. No.
Absolutely. That's a fabulous story. And, so much of our audience are coaches, or they're on that path. They want to become coaches. And it's huge to give you that permission that you don't have to be the, Jill of all trades, that the knower of all the answers. It's like, taking your car to, like, not taking your car to a mechanic. Like, I'm going to go take my car to my interior designer.
Right. Exactly.
And fix it. Because she's really good at fixing a lot of things in my house that aren't in my car and, like, organized. It's like, no. And so that's such a breath of fresh air to hear how you handled that with the client, which is important because I think, we tend to get into this line of work because we're helpers. We want to help solve problems and we just have this love in our heart for our people. But when we get into territories that really aren't ours, like out of our scope, you're like, dude, I could, like, screw you up if I was really taking that on. We get in over our heads and it becomes not fun anymore. So I want to hear from you, Jenny. It sounds like you went to a college that was, you said, kind of an engineering. Was that it? Technical?
I went to Cornell University and I went to the College of Engineering there.
Oh, so. College of Engineering. Okay. At Cornell. All right. So how did you get from that to what you're doing now? Like, just walk us through that path, because this is always interesting.
Right. So the reason I went to engineering school was my parents said, you go to college to get a skill, to get a job. And I thought, well, I'm okay at math, so how about I go to engineering school? So that was how the decision was made. And honestly, I hated it. I was miserable. I was so miserable. Not just miserable for all the reasons we talked about before, but it just wasn't my thing. But at the same time, I had no idea what else to do because I had totally disconnected, since age 11, I had totally disconnected from anything that I wanted. I no longer knew what I wanted. I didn't have access to that information. So I thought, well, okay, I'll go. And about partway through, I thought about switching majors, but the curriculum was so rigid that if I switched majors, I would have had to stay an extra year. And I was like, well, that's a bad idea. So
I'm getting out of here. Yeah.
let's just get this over as quickly as possible. So I graduated and I got a job. So I was in school in New York and I got a job on the West Coast, which was like get away, separate from the family, create a little bit of space in my life. So I got a job on the West Coast with a high tech company doing engineering work, and it was fine. Like as far as corporate jobs go, it was a casual, the office out here was pretty casual and the people were really nice, and there wasn't ridiculous work hour expectations. I mean, most people worked maybe more than 40 hours a week, but it was a pretty good gig as far as corporate jobs go. And a couple of years in, after I got my feet wet, I was thinking, yeah, still don't like this. Like still not really liking it. I like my life out here. The people are great, but this line of work isn't it. And I had a really great boss. His name was Michael, and he was just a great person. And he sort of knew that like I wasn't super excited about it. I was great at my job and all that, but it's just not my thing. And so then a management position came up. So, he had suggested, like, do you want to go for it? And I was sort of like, okay. And it's like more about helping people than about doing the actual engineering work. So managing a team of engineers.
Got it.
And doing
the actual work.
And so I was like, okay, well, that brings me a little bit, it brings me out of the technical and more into helping people. And so I got the job, which was pretty crazy. So at 26, I was promoted to this management position, and I had people working for me who were like my dad's age. And so that brought on a whole host of challenges that I wasn't quite ready for. A lot of my peers now became my employees. But so it was about 2 years of total hell, trial by fire. But I just like persisted. And on the other side of that 2 years, I was a darn good manager. Like I was really good at what I did. And I thought, man, this is so much better. I totally get this. I love managing people. I love coordinating and working with this. And I had also figured out how to do that job, working less hours than most of the other people. But I like set up these like secret ways that I would do it. So I got my job done. I was a great boss. People loved working for me, except if they were slackers. Then they didn't like working for me because I held people accountable. But everybody who showed up and was good at their job loved, like the word on the street was Jenny's great boss to work for. And I would find ways to like sneak in good times. So like I would go to yoga at lunch, and I would leave early on Fridays, and I'd like have a personal lunch date with my husband on the other days. And so I found these ways to make, even though I was expected to like be in the office for FaceTime, I was still I found these ways to make this job work around what really mattered. But so then I got that going, and I was like, man, this is a pretty good gig. But then my heart was like, was a little sad, because it thought, well, Jenny, if you keep doing this, you're going to be like vice president at 50. And do you really want to say that you were one of the vice presidents in Hewlett Packard, and you graduate, or not graduate, but retire saying that's what you did? And I thought, like, no way. I can't be 50, 65, whatever, and retire and say that's all I did with my life.
That's what you did for your work.
And there are people who that is what they're meant to do. And this is not saying that's not a good career, but it was not the career for me.
It wasn't true for you. You would be lying.
Yes. And so then I was like, but like, what do I want to do with my life? I sort of had thought that like one day I would just wake up knowing. Like one day I would be blessed with the knowledge fairy, and I would just know what I needed to do. And it hadn't happened. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I have to take this matters into my own hands. And so I worked with a career coach and a couple of different career coaches, and I started reading books, and I just went on this, like, what the heck do I want to do with my life journey? And out of that, I thought, well, I used to dream of being a therapist, and I really like helping people really make their lives better. And so I interviewed some therapists, and one of them was a therapist that I had worked with before. And she's like, Jenny, you're really good with people, but I think you'd be better, instead of taking people who are like really at a low point in their life and bringing them to like normal operating, I could see you take people who are already doing awesome and helping them shine. Have you thought about being a life coach? And I was like, rah, 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 rah. Like that, a life coach,
I was an engineer. Like, did it feel like fluffy? Did it feel, what did it feel like? What was your response?
It's sort of like, what is that? And people can't make a living doing that. Like, here was primary breadwinner in a household. Like, and I'm going to go be a life coach? Like, like that was my mindset. She goes, you need to talk to Susan. So I was like, okay. So I go and I talk to Susan, and And one thing led to another, and I just like, oh, there's so many little dots in here. And I finally decided, oh, maybe this life coach thing really is for me. So I went to Byron Katie's 9-day school for the work. I signed up for Mark the Beck's life coach training, and then I was like, this is it. And I gave notice and I quit my job, and I was like, I'm going to be a life coach. And I just like went all in. And then that's when it got hard. Like, then I was like, oh, this business thing, this is not easy. Like, but at the same time, I had left my job with so much determination and so much, like, I was left on very good terms. I like, you know, but I was in my head, I was like flipping everybody the bird, like, I'm going to go do, I mean, not literally, that was just in my head, but like, totally. I'm going to go do, it's going to be amazing. And then when it didn't happen right away, I was like, oh no. But I was driven so hard by that pulling me, that the fear of having to go back to my job, but also that I can't go back. I can't do that again. Right. And I started working as a virtual assistant. So here I was building this life coaching business, being a career coach, and I was getting clients and I was doing all right, but I didn't love it. And I was like, I need to make some more money. So I knew some coaches who were like, I'm thinking about hiring a VA. I was like, I'll be your VA. And I got hired really fast by a bunch of more experienced coaches. And I quickly realized that actually I liked that way better than life coaching. Like that whole big squishy, make a big life decision that we talked about earlier.
That's not my thing. Yeah.
Not my thing. That's what we were trained to become. And it was like,
it was cool that you were able to pivot. You're like, I take all that training and I'm going to apply it in a different way. So being the virtual assistant allowed you to see, oh wait, there's this whole realm here. Was it the technology? Was it like putting the puzzle together?
It was. So one of my primary roles at my job, at my engineering job, was project management. And what I loved most was like coordinating, you know, there were times where I was managing like $350 million projects with hundreds of team members over multiple countries. Like, that when I was in my element. And so this whole idea of like massive big picture, bringing it down to what actually needs to happen by whom and by when, today, tomorrow, the next day. So VA stuff was like a taste of that. And then I started moving into, I was like, oh, well, this is good. And then I like fired all my coaching clients. And then I started being a VA plus a project manager. So I worked for more experienced coaches, managing all of their projects. And then I realized, well, actually, I can do other people's projects, but I should probably do my own. And then I realized, oh, through this whole process, I figured out who I am, what I bring to the table, and I want to help people make their ideas happen. So still doing a little bit of everything, but that's when I took my coaching skills and put it into, you have this thing you want to make, like a business you want to start, list you want to start building. It didn't really matter. I'm going to coach you through figuring out the steps to make your big idea happen. And then as that business was like, as that was all growing, I realized, oh, actually I kind of figured out this whole like business and marketing thing. Like maybe I should take my whole step-by-step approach, like my really methodical, like forget all the noises, all what you don't have to worry about. You just have to worry about 1, 2, 3, and coaching people through that and building their business. So slowly, like it just sort of transitioned from VA work to project management to coaching to slowly dropping all that other stuff and just moving into this realm of helping people build their businesses step by step.
And really like teaching, you know, like taking all those skills, all of your past experiences, like what you said, helping people make their big ideas happen. It's like that engineering training. I can see where that would come in so handy for being able to break down, which a lot, I mean, because it's what you do.
Yeah.
And I see it with my client base as well, as they have the ideas, they're the visionaries, but they don't know how to break it down and you know, bust out that project management software and figure out like what needs to happen and when. And you know, I will say to my people, you know, the idea is only going to become real because you're going to breathe life into it. You're going to take those steps. You've got to take actions. And so that's fabulous that you got there. I love the pathway, and you were just driven by. You didn't want to go back to that corporate gig. And I so get it. Like your story, mine was like put in public relations executive instead of engineering. And that thing of like, I don't think this is what I'm not even thinking, this is not what I meant to do. I don't want my boss's job. Oh crap. Because I thought that's what I wanted. And now I know I don't. And so it's, you know, for everybody tuning in, you might still be in that place where you're still trying to figure it out. Just know you will figure it out if you're willing to trust those downloads. I talk about, the inner voice. When you realize this is not where I'm supposed to hang, then you've got to get yourself out. No, I mean, sometimes the universe will kick you out. Like I have many clients, like I got laid off, like something happened, downsize. I'm like, that was a freaking blessing. Like you're getting paid to go figure out what your thing is. But, if it's for our listeners, if that's not where they are, then there's times when, like with you, Jenny, what I did, I quit my job. I just quit. I quit the 6-figure job. I didn't know I was going to be a freaking life coach. Okay. I didn't know that yet because I was just so burned out. You talk about the burnout. I was so freaking burned out. I was just like, I got to get out of here. I can't breathe anymore. I don't know what's happening. I had gotten really into yoga. And so at that point I was training to become a yoga teacher. I was going through this 200-hour training and it was cracking me open. And I was realizing who I was and probably like kind of what you were experiencing with those, with Byron Katie's work and Martha Beck. It's like that was happening for me in yoga teacher training. And I was having a harder and harder time going into work and being like, okay, so let's go do these other things. I just wasn't interested anymore. Like wasn't me. I couldn't play that game. And I just quit one day. I just quit. I had no plan. I wasn't like, I'm going to go sell. I was just, people are like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. It was one of the most terrifying moments of my life, but also one of the most liberating times. And I did. I figured it out. It wasn't so soon after that you probably know Jonathan Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Fields. Yeah. So he actually owned the yoga studio where I trained to become a yoga teacher. And so he was starting to kind of explore other facets of his work at that time. He no longer owns that studio. And his first book was coming out called Career Renegade, How to Make a Great Living Doing What You Love. I'm like, oh my God, that's what I need. And so he was doing a workshop, like, I'm going to go to your workshop. And from there, I met a woman who was a creativity coach and a yoga teacher. And I was like, what is that coach thing? And what your therapist, said to you, you're interviewing those therapists. And like you, I also thought I wanted to be a therapist. And then I realized I would go crazy sitting in that room all day. And I'm more of like the let's move, like let's take the action. We've been talking about it for a while and it's time because we don't have any more time. Okay. Like we've got to move. And so that's the great thing about, coaching or being in this field, being in this industry, although, you like kind of relinquished your life coach title, you moved into serving, coaching, the coaching industry, and then coaching now your clients to help make their big ideas happen. And so everything just lined up for you in its own time.
Yeah. And, and I couldn't have done this any other way. Like I couldn't have just jumped from corporate job to coach to make ideas happen. I had to go through all of every one of those steps. So, I always like to say to people listening or building their businesses, well, I don't really know. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Just do the thing that excites you the most next. And then when you get there, take the next thing that excites you the most there. Don't worry about what your degree is. Don't worry about how it's all going to pan out because you can't see it. You only can see it backwards. You can never see it. You can never see it forward.
Boom, boom. That was some wisdom right there, kids. Do the thing that excites you the most next. That is it. Y'all get out of your head. Stop trying. Well, like in 5 years, it's just, that's it. It's take that next right step, take that next right step, take that next right step. That is freaking
if the engineer, project manager, hyper planner tells you to just follow what you're excited with, there must be. You reclaimed
that girl. You reclaimed that girl who was excited to, do a cannonball in the pool. Yeah, and exactly. Right? Because you were excited. You're like, and that's the thing that's so awesome about kids. And I have 3 of them and, 8, 6, and 3. And they just follow what they're freaking excited about. They don't overthink. They just are just joy in a body. And, that's why I like to talk about some of those things that happen when we're younger, just kind of unpack a little bit and see where some of those, some of that innocence, some of that joy was like taken away or was infringed upon, because we can see where we made kind of shifts for that, accommodations for that. And then how did we get it back? Like, how did we find our way back to this place of happiness and like, this is who I am. And I love what you said about your communities being like really inclusive spots, so I just want to know, how did you meet your husband? Like, did you meet him out in Oregon?
Yeah. So I got an internship 2 summers in a row with Hewlett Packard between my sophomore and junior year of college, between my junior year and senior year in different locations.
Uh-huh.
And the summer between my junior year and senior year, he was working at Hewlett Packard full time. So he was a full-time employee, and the woman I sat next to, like where my cubicle was, she was a full-time employee. She and Paul were really good friends. And when I got there, she's just one of those nice, inclusive people. She's like, "Hi, I'm Suzanne." This weekend, it was like, I started the week before Memorial Day weekend. She's like, "I'm going with two of my friends over to Bend, and we're going to go mountain biking. And I heard that you bought a bike, and we're going to go skiing. And I heard you went skiing last weekend, and we're going to go hiking. Do you want to come with us?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." Like, I don't know anybody. So, okay, I'll go with you. And I went, and we took two cars, and she's like, "Why don't you go with Paul? He's closer to your age. I'll go with Vic." And so that was just it. So we just sort of started dating. And I was like, he was not on my agenda. Like, my agenda was to graduate from college.
Engineering girl. You're like, I got the plan.
Join the Peace Corps. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to go join the Peace Corps. I'll tell you, like, my mom and my grandmother were like, it was Paul or Nepal. And we're so glad Paul won. I was like, but this was not my plan. This was not my plan. So I left that internship with a full-time job offer. And, you know, he was here, his life was here, he was working full time. He had already been here for 5 years. And so it didn't make sense for me to go get a job anywhere else. And it was fun here, so.
Oh my gosh. But that's another reason, the engineering path and,
right.
That gig. It's like, cause your husband was there, like that to me is, this show is really about also spirituality and like the connection between our spiritual path and our business path. And, I have this fascination around spiritual growth equals business growth and vice versa. And so like all these little places where we hang, it's like someone was just waiting there. So it was, you need to be there for a lot of different reasons, but also because your husband was there. And so then, and like, that's the larger piece. That's the larger legacy. That's our own family. And it's just absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh. Thanks for sharing that story. Okay, Jenny. So I know you've got some cool stuff going on because you got it going on in your business. So tell people how people can tell our listeners how they can find you, how they can be served by you.
Yeah. So, you can find me at jennyshih.com, and there's like I've been doing this business thing for a long time, and there are gobs of resources. We get emails from people all the time that say, "Jenny, I went to your website," and then like it was 3.5 hours later, and now I know how to build a business. So come on over. There's so much there for free to just help you build your business. And right now, while this show is airing, I am doing something called Make It Work Online Prep School, which is a 3-month totally free business coaching and training program focused at online service-based business owners, primarily women, but I do allow men in my circle as long as they're cool being around a bunch of chicks. Right. So, and it's really about helping people get their business started and off the ground, getting clients and starting to create consistent income in their businesses. And so we're doing this whole free thing. You can go to makeitworkonline.com/prep school, all one word, and join in on the fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So makeitworkonline.com/prep school. And then jennyshih.com is the main headquarters.
You got it.
Magic goes down. I love it, Jenny. Well, it's been awesome having you here. And you've obviously made a lot of gutsy moves in your life. I love your transparency and how you shared here and, the dots connecting and just like what can happen in a brief conversation, really. So I want to know what the gutsiest move that you've ever made is and how that inspires your life and work today.
Well, I would just say the gutsiest thing was quitting my corporate job, not having made a penny in my business, being the breadwinner in our household, and not really knowing where the money was going to come to pay the mortgage or buy dog food, and just going for it, saying, I have to do this. I can't not make a change. And that seeing and finding that determination and commitment and learning that when my derriere is on the line, big stuff can happen. When we hold on to the past for safety, we can't make that next big leap. And so I always sort of remember, like, it's okay every once in a while to take a really big risk when everything in you says go for it.
Yes, yes, yes. That is it. Me too. It's like when my back is against the wall, like, there's no quitting. There's no turning back. It's not like, well, this just got too hard. I liken it too with, I've got childbirth 3 times and you can't change your mind. It's coming. It's really freaking painful. You're gonna have a lot of sensations. You're gonna have to face your biggest fears and like kind of break into a million pieces, which honestly has been my quest in growing this business. I'm sure you can relate, Jenny. Like, you hit up against stuff. You're gonna hit up with rejection. You're gonna hit up against critics, against things that didn't go the way that I thought they were gonna go. That wasn't part of the plan. Blah, blah, blah. But then when you can just open up and trust that it's all part of the larger plan of what's going on, and how awesome is it that you can help your students and clients all over the world doing these things that you're just freaking naturally gifted at. I mean, it's just rad.
It doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get better than that.
It really doesn't. There's times I'm like, just often, thank you, God. And when new clients come in, especially like high level clients to get to work with, like, you are an answer to a prayer. And I know I was an answer to a prayer for them. And that's what it is. So I want all of our listeners to take that in wherever you are in your journey. You are the answer to somebody's prayer, vice versa. Get out there and do it. Go for it. Get that back against the wall sometimes and know that you won't quit. You won't quit. Just set the intention. And that kind of reminds me too of, as we wrap up, I don't know if she's in Oregon, but the woman who just run the marathon in New York City, it was the first woman. I know she lives out west. Yeah. I don't know, because she's just coming to mind right now. First woman, U.S. woman in 40 years. She was born the year I was born. It was last time somebody won from the U.S. was 1977, which was when I was born. And I'm like, holy, and she ran it like 7 years ago or something, came in second, and she trained 7 years, patience and hard work, right? She just she popped into my brain of like, whoa, she just like sprinted for 2.5 hours, which makes me feel like.
We were talking about that the other day. I'm like, they ran it how fast? Like, that's sprinting. Like, how did they do that? That is superhuman. But
that's like they're like animals, they're like cheetahs and stuff. They're like the fastest animal on the planet. There are those women and those men. I mean, it's so astounding. But what we're capable of when we train, when we put in the work, when we are disciplined, when we have that plan. She had coaches, she had trainers, she was working off of a system and a real thoughtful approach, which is what you help your clients do, Jenny, which is what I help my clients do. So just know, y'all, anything is possible. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for being here, Jenny. You're amazing. Always good to meet a fellow Jenny. This is Jenny Fennig sending you so much love, light, and faith as you get gutsy. I'll see you next time.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Get Gutsy with Jenny Fennig. Gutsy leaders unite and ignite.